Welcome. I have another beer contest for you. We're going to put up another American craft lager against a good European lager. Specifically, a craft beer from Florida from a company called Angry Chair Brewing, which must be a relatively new company because I never heard of it until I saw it in the liquor store. I bought it, thought I would try it. It's called Vodnik. And it's classified as a Czech or Bohemian Pilsner. And I thought a good beer to put that up against would be Czechvar from the Czech Republic, the state beer of the Czech Republic. This is a Czech lager. It's not a Pilsner. The Czech government only recognizes one Pilsner, and that's Pilsner Urquell from the town of Pilsen, from where it gets its name. So although there are a lot of beers that claim to be Pilsners, they're not recognized as Pilsners by Czech. So anyway, the Vodnik is 5.6 ABV, and the Czechvar is 5. The Czechvar is a little bit darker, as you can see. So I will have to do this blindfolded, so I don't know which is which, because I want to make it unbiased. This is one of my favorite beers, and I've determined that by doing these kind of contests or these kind of side-by-side taste tests blind to see which one I like the best. This one came very close to Hofbräu. Although they have a different flavor, I did like them almost the same. So let's get to this. I'll start I'll mix them up here, then I'll start tasting them. Now my criteria on the winner is which one would I like to drink more of? Because it could be subjective, depending on what my mood is. Sometimes I like a hoppy beer. Sometimes I like a malty beer. I don't know. But usually I found that this beer, Czechvar, Hofbräu, are beers that I could always drink. Are always good every time I try them. All right, so let's try this one here. Not much of an odor to it. That's got some hops to it. Slightly citrusy hops. This has got to be Vodnik. That's smooth. Different type of hop flavor up front with more maltiness coming on in the middle and a good finish. It's good. Definitely a little bit more bitter, this one is. A little bit sawdusty in comparison, or maybe the term would be used would be grassy, I don't know. But yeah, already I can tell this is a much better beer here. So I might as well open my eyes and yeah, I was right. Czechvar is a clear winner in this case. Now I don't know about this beer, Angry Chair Brewing. It doesn't say on the can what ABV it is. I looked before I bought it because I wanted to see. So it wasn't until right before I started doing this video that I looked it up on Beer Advocate and found out it's 5.6. But you can pause this, and hopefully it'll be clear enough to read. And it doesn't say anywhere on there, and it certainly doesn't say anywhere else on the can what the ABV is. Beer Advocate gave this 85 points. So it's classified as a very good beer according to Beer Advocate. And I forgot what Czechvar is, but I can tell you this. Czechvar is better. So, now this one, it's like most American beers these days, they hopped on the hop bandwagon to make everything quite hoppy, hoppier than normal, hoppier than the typical American lagers like Bud Miller Coors, or even the typical European lagers like Stella or Heineken, or any of the German Helles beers. American craft lagers, at least the more recent ones that I've tried, have always been hopped up with a bit of a citrusy flavor to them, more than the typical lagers or pilsners that you might be used to drinking for 40, 50 years or longer. I mean, you're going to tell a big difference between this and a Pabst or a Budweiser or a Miller or a Coors. But it is pale. It's very pale, clear, yellowish, light, transparent, like those other beers. This one, of course, a little bit more coppery in color, maybe closer to orange. You know you're getting something here when you have a beer that looks like this, although color is not a determining factor. However, you probably could correlate taste to color, whereas a darker lager, slightly darker, might have a different flavor, and especially a Dunkel, which is a lager. They're definitely different. One of my favorites lagers, which is a black lager, is Modelo Negro. That's a good lager. And you would think it, since it's black, you're going to expect it to taste really dark and malty like a porter or a stout, but it doesn't. It tastes a lot like a regular lager. It's good. And of course, in Germany, they've got the style called a Dunkel, which is black. Hofbräu makes a Dunkel, and several other German companies make Dunkels. Bocks are lagers, and a typical Bock is going to be like this, maybe a bit darker, and it's going to be stronger, it's going to be maltier. And a Doppelbock is really malty. Doppelbocks are closer to black or very dark brown. Doppelbocks are one of my favorite styles, and they have a taste that's quite a bit different than a lager, very different. Closer to, you could say, a stout or a porter. But it's not. They're not stouts and they're not porters. And although stouts and porters are more like coffee tasting in some ways, a Doppelbock isn't necessarily. If you're a regular beer drinker with lagers, and you get a Doppelbock for the first time, you're probably not going to like it. When my son and I were in Germany last September, which is almost 11 months ago, we stopped at some place and he got a beer. He didn't quite know what he was getting, and it turned out to be a Doppelbock, and he wasn't crazy about it because it was pretty strong. Doppelbocks are strong tasting beers. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. That's pretty much all I got to say about this. We're going to chalk up another win here for the Czechvar. Usually when I put a beer up against Czechvar, Czechvar comes out on top. So that's why I wanted to do the Czechvar because that's the pinnacle of European lager type beers, in my opinion. There are a lot of beers in Europe. I haven't tried them all, but I've tried many of them. Czechvar, Hofbräu, two of the best. Well, Hocker Schwa, that's another good one that rivals Hofbräu. If I can't get Hofbräu and I'm in a German restaurant, if they got Hocker Schwa, I'll get that. I'll get the Paulaner Pilsner if they have that. That's a good one too. So what's the difference between a Pilsner and a lager? Well, a Pilsner, well basically the lager style came about because of Pilsner, because of the Pilsner Urquell. The very first light lager, and when I say light, I mean it looks like this in color. Because prior to that, lagers were dark or darker. In the town of Pilsen in Bohemia, they brewed this beer called Pilsner Urquell, whatever I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And that was the first, and then it became very popular, and then they started to brew beers, lagers, like that. But they called them lager. Now, some places, especially in Germany and other places, they brewed a version of that beer and they called it a Pilsner. They call it German Pilsner, or Pils. But as I said before, really, there's only one Pilsner. Pilsner Urquell, the original, and everything else isn't a Pilsner that's recognized by the Czech government. It's recognized as a style by beer enthusiasts and connoisseurs. But officially, that's the only Pilsner. Gets its name from Pilsen. Pilsner. Just like this gets its name in the Czech Republic from a town called Budweis, which is the German pronunciation. And the Czech pronunciation, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But this is called, in Europe, Budweiser, or Budweiser in English, because it comes from the town of Budweis. So Budweiser has had legal problems with American Budweiser, and that's why in the United States this is called Czechvar instead of Budweiser or Budweiser. You can't have two Budweisers because people get confused, and it pisses off the corporations that own them. Also, this beer, this brewery, is owned by the government of the Czech Republic. It's its official state beer, you could say. Why? Why does the Czech Republic own that? Well, because of all the legal problems between Budweiser and Budweiser. They know that if the government didn't own this brewery, it would be bought out, probably by InBev, Anheuser-Busch InBev. And you know what would happen if Anheuser-Busch InBev bought it out? They would change its freaking name. It would no longer be Budweiser, and that's a shame. In fact, one of the founders of Anheuser-Busch went to Budweis in the Czech Republic, or in Bohemia, and he liked the beer that he basically named his beer after it. So that's why it's called Budweiser in the United States. Well, there are a lot of big beer companies in Europe, Carlson and Anheuser-Busch InBev and so on, that own so much beer. You wouldn't believe all the beer brands that they own throughout Europe and the world. Thankfully, the Czech government has this, and the Czech government protects it to keep its name from being changed. And it's too bad that they can't call this Budweiser or Budweiser here in the United States. It's too bad. That's all I got to say about that. The Czech Budweiser, still one of the best. And if you don't believe me, go out and taste it for yourself. And do what I do. Take another beer that you like and put it side by side. And don't let bias influence you. So do it blindfolded so you don't know which one is which. And I can pretty much guarantee you that this is going to be better than any mass-produced American beer, or a lot of European beers for that matter. There's a lot of good beer in Europe. Germany, Czechia, and Poland makes great beer. Denmark has some good beer. In that whole area there. There's a good beer in France called, I think it's Kronenbourg. Kronenbourg 1664, I believe. That's a good beer. Haven't had a lot of good beers in Italy. Peroni sucks. Peroni's like an American adjunct lager, I think. But they have Birra Moretti, which is not an adjunct lager, and that beer is not bad. I can drink that. Well, anyway, I'm still going on. I keep saying I'm going to end this video, so here we go. I'm ending it now.